where creativity meets community and every park becomes a canvas for inspiration. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. This is our host, Beatriz Eugenia Vasquez, and you're watching Arts in Parks and Rec, streaming live every first and third Wednesday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us as we explore how art transforms parks and public spaces through inspiring murals, creative programs, live performances, and community events that spark imagination, strengthen connections, and enrich lives. Arts in Parks, where creativity brings every community to life. In this episode, discover how the arts are bringing parks and recreation to life through creativity, connection, and community. Explore inspiring stories of artists and recreation professionals making parks more vibrant, inclusive, and impactful for everyone.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, DPRS Media Company, where we are a family of shows all talking about parks and recreation and highlighting all the amazing stuff that's going on. Today is a really special day for us as a media company. We finally have a show about arts in Parks and Rec. And so performing arts, visual arts, there's so much stuff that goes on in our Parks and Rec community that caters to those artistic people within our community and how they express that. And Parks and Rec has been playing a vital role in finding young budding artists and giving them a place to call home. And I think it's done best by Beatriz out in Southern California, where she's opened up her craft and her passion to the children of Parks and Rec in her community. And she's able to offer really elite programming to children that could really not afford it in any other way. And I think that's a big part of what Parks and Rec does. Parks and Rec as a culture always seeks to make sure that everyone is included, that no one's left behind, no one's left out, that a future great ballerina never gets exposure to it because she just can't afford it or she can't find transportation to it. And so Parks and Rec is always seeking for ways to serve their community and offer great programming like Beatriz does. And so she has agreed to produce 2 shows a month on the first and third Wednesday of every month at the 3 p.m. Eastern time slot, and all to create great programming around arts in Parks and Rec. And so that's the name of the show, Arts in Parks and Rec. But let me chat about the other shows that we have. So first of all, congratulations, Beatriz and the team. Great to have you on board. Jovi, why don't you go ahead and pull up that image that we have? We kind of have like a TV guide. Finally, look at that. And so this is kind of the lineup that we've created over the last year. These are all the different shows and the times that they air. The one at the top is the 12 noon time slot. And so we have our leadership series where we highlight leaders in Parks and Rec that have dedicated their life to this industry. And we talk about their backstory, why they dedicate their lives to Parks and Rec, and what do they find fulfilling about it, and how exciting it is to build community for a living. And then also with that 12 noon time slot, we have the Director Pepper Club. And so this is a group of Southern California directors that have been meeting kind of like a social club. So it's kind of like a social show. And Papa J is just an amazing talent, has a gift for creating content and having conversations. So I really love his show. He was a recent addition to our team. Then also at the 1:30 p.m. time slot, we have a technology show, 2 of them actually. And so on the first Monday of every month, we talk about the software in Parks and Rec. And software is just making us so much more efficient at how we serve our community. So with the help of Amelia, the sponsor of that show, we created a show called Parks and Tech Collective. And then that's on the first Monday at every month. And then on the second and fourth Mondays, on the hardware side, how is your park becoming a smart park? And so we, with the help of Outdoor Link and Dave Ramirez, we produce a show second and fourth Mondays to talk about upgrading your infrastructure so that everything is connected to the internet. And that's called Smart Parks Forward. Then on Tuesdays, we have a show all on military rec. And so it's called On the Front Line with our host, John Prue. And so for those of you that don't know, all the military bases across the world have a Parks and Rec department embedded within it, not just serving the soldiers, but the families and the children of the soldiers when they're off base. And so if you've played some type of rec sports on a military base, MWR was in charge of it. And so we have a show dedicated to that. then that brings us to today. We produce 3 shows, actually 4 shows. So after the leadership series at 1:30, we have Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, where we talk about mental health and the role that Parks and Rec plays in that. On the second Wednesday of every month, we produce something with the Rec Room. Henry County, Georgia. We produce the Rec Room. And this is where, imagine you had a very well-run Parks and Rec department that wanted to open up the curtain, and you could kind of see how they handle specific parts of Parks and Rec. So whether it's running a farmer's market or after school care programs, they bring all of the stakeholders, and you get to kind of see how a well-run Parks and Rec department handles everything that's thrown at Parks and Rec. And then that brings us to the show you're on right now, Arts in Parks and Rec. And so that's going to be on the first and third Wednesday at 3 p.m. With the help of Beatriz, where we talk all about arts in Parks and Rec. And that brings us to Thursday. This is one of our oldest running shows, the Youth Sports Mastery Show, with our very gifted host who has a background in radio. So that was very convenient. But he also has 40 years in rec sports, inclusive rec sports that reaches all the community. And he has some of the best athletic directors, coaches, sports officials, pro athletes that come on his show. And when it comes to rec sports, that's typically what you think about when you think about Parks and Rec, is like your baseball league and your soccer leagues and how that's run in Parks and Rec. Now, if you're a young professional, at 5 p.m., we have a show for you every Thursday, 5 p.m. And so when I say young professional, if you're a student that's studying to enter this industry as a career, if you're already in here, but it's like your first 1 to 5 years and you're just trying to figure out what's going on and what is Parks and Rec, I know it can be very overwhelming with all the things you have to get good at on day one. But also, if you are a professor or a mentor, or even better, if you have a strong internship program that runs through your Parks and Rec department, this is the show for you. And then we close out the week on the Aquatics Life Show with our host, Wesley King, who's dedicated his whole life to aquatics. He was actually a guest on my show earlier today. It's just an amazing show. And so if you have anybody in aquatics and you're just looking for some content that's kind of like a continuing education, I think he produced his 13th show last week. All of them are gold. And so you can definitely you can find his playlist on our YouTube channel and see the whole playlist. Matter of fact, you can see all of the videos that we've produced. This is our 568th episode. And so I really appreciate everybody getting us to this point. Couldn't have done it without the love and support of the industry. All right. So when we get back, you're going to see Beatriz, our show host. You're going to see Laura, her guest. And so let's go ahead and cut to those transitions, and we'll let Beatriz take it away.
Technology isn't just changing devices, it's changing communities. It's changing how we connect, how we lead, and how we create experiences that bring people together. Because today's parks and recreation industry isn't only about fields, facilities, and programs. It's about innovation, smart systems, digital experiences, and the people transforming ideas into impact. Behind every thriving community, there are leaders embracing change. As technology evolves, parks and recreation professionals are discovering new ways to create safer spaces, stronger connections, and better experiences for everyone. This is where conversations meet innovation, where ideas become action, where parks and technology come together. Welcome to Parks and Tech Collective, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here today with our brand new episode of the Arts in Parks and Rec. And I am so excited to introduce our very first guest, Laura Black, an award-winning filmmaker, writer, and director. and an incredible human being that has an incredible ability, yes, to spread the love for theater and the performing arts to seniors in the Los Angeles area. Hi, Laura, how are you?
Hi, Beatrice. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to have you be part of this incredible series that I'm hoping to bring as many artists and performers as I can that are in some way working with parks and recreation around the country. Because as you know, coming from the performing arts background, sometimes our world is a little bit elitist, and if you don't have the means or the money, getting those theater classes or getting, in my case, those ballet classes is not affordable for many.
Right.
But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you got into the world of theater, the performing arts, and all these magical things.
Well, I think I kind of started from when I was a kid. I was always performing, you go and make up plays and you write and you sing. And that's kind of what I was, sort of a ham.
Mm-hmm.
And, we used to write things and perform 'em. I'm from the Midwest, so we used to perform in the basement,
Wow.
So we used to have our own things. And sometimes we charge a quarter for them to see our amazing shows. And then, we had and then in high school, I went to a high school that didn't really have performing arts per se. They just had special classes and stuff. So I had to seek it out elsewhere. Right.
Okay.
So that was something that I did. But I think it was just kind of having the love for the arts. I don't know. It was inherent. I loved theater. I loved going to plays. I loved movies. We used to have these afternoon movies where we'd have a host that would introduce it and give you some sort of trivia about it on a Saturday afternoon. So it was kind of like over my whole my formative years per se.
Yeah.
And but I also sang in a choir in church, and then I also sang in a band. So, and I took piano lessons. I mean, that whole stuff that you do when you're growing up. Yeah. But I never stopped acting. That was kind of my first thing. And I never stopped writing. Even though I first went to nursing school and I did that as right out of high school, I was always taking acting classes, and we had variety shows in nursing school. We put them on. So I always had my finger in the pie, so to speak. And then after that, I went to USC Film School. And so that gave me a whole nother perspective from the industry, actually being able to do stuff and learning how to do those things and write and make short films and things like that. And after that, I can't remember the length of time it was after getting out of film school, but I worked in the industry. I worked for a producer. I worked in post-production. I wore a lot of different hats. And, we did a lot of coverage on scripts. We read a lot of scripts. We thought whether or not they're marketable, whether they're good, all that kind of thing. And then I met up with a bunch of folks. We just formed our own writers group where we critiqued each other's stuff. We read it out loud. And then that transformed into joining a writers group called PKE, Playwrights Kitchen Ensemble, that was at the Coronet Theater for a number of years. And then I met my colleagues that we formed our own company called Playwright 6. And that's where we really honed the craft of writing, critiquing, directing. We put on our own shows, and we got a lot of good acclaim for that. And so a lot of directing with that. And, that's kind of how I started getting into it, and then never stopped, really.
And you have never stopped. Yeah, I think that's the story for most of us in the performing arts. Somehow we evolve, but we're always connected to it in one way or another, right? Like you said, we wear many hats. Like we produce, we direct. In my case, I choreograph, I teach dance classes. I choreograph for music videos, and it's like, the journey never ends. And how did you make the transition, or how did you end up working for Parks and Rec? How was that? How did that come about?
It was just a serendipity, really. A friend of mine, Mike Szymanski, Mike, dear friend.
Yes.
I get a call from him out of the blue, and he says, our performance workshop teacher left. Would you be interested in applying for the job? And I thought, okay, I didn't know about I got to be honest, I didn't know about Las Palmas Senior Center. I didn't know that there even existed this kind of thing for them. So it was one of those really great timing. I came in, I interviewed, and I pretty much got the job on the spot, which was nice. So it's just going through the process of the bureaucracy of what you have to
course.
do to get into the system.
To get into the city. I know
Mhm.
that's one of the things, and I think Craig is doing such a wonderful work, and is that not many people know that the cities throughout the United States have a department where you could be teaching all these classes and where
Mhm.
the community can be involved. And in our case, with the performing arts, because it's the same thing for me in dance and ballet, a lot of times people don't associate parks and recreation with the performing arts. They
Mhm.
associate it just with sports, but never with something like theater, dance, painting, sculpture. So it's
Mhm.
amazing that we're getting to do this so that people know that there are places where you can go and take dance classes, or in the case of the senior center, how amazing that somebody past the age of 50, if they decide they want to study acting, they can come to a senior center like
Mhm.
where you're at and take theater classes and
Mhm.
perform and get ready for that. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think that I found the growth of the
Yes.
people, of my students, because I first started out with the performance class where we actually do 4 shows a year, of which you're a part with your
Yeah.
dance class. And it's sort of a seasonal thing, So right now we're prepping
Yeah.
for our summer show. It's
Yes.
called Summer in the City. And you kind of get to know your people, especially if they come back. And I encourage others to come and join it. Some may be intimidated. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. You can. And
Yes.
that's what because you play to their strengths, right? You
Yeah.
know what they can, you kind of learn what they can and can't do. You can't expect them to be doing,
Yeah.
somersaults while they're juggling, but,
Yeah.
but you know that they have that personality, but you also want to challenge them, right?
Exactly.
You want to make sure that not only are they engaged, but they're excited about engaging. And that's kind of my method for, bringing them into it and hopefully giving them something that they like to do.
Well, I've seen the growth because, we're lucky we're here in the city of Los Angeles, in Hollywood. And I've seen the shows and I've seen the growth of the students. And I've seen, I mean, the power that the arts can have on somebody's well being. So, talking about that, how has it been working with them and encouraging them to continue at times when they feel like they may not want to, or I know there are a few sometimes when I come to teach the dance classes where they're like, oh, I don't know if I can learn that monologue, I don't know if I can do those lines, it's too long, the play is so long, I'm so nervous. So how has that process been of encouraging them, and what have
Um,
you seen?
Well, sometimes I'm a little tough. I got to be honest with you because I
Yeah.
try to hold them accountable. Because
Hmm.
sometimes if you're too much, oh, it's okay, you'll be fine. I do encourage. Don't get me wrong. I always encourage. Yes, you can do it. Of course, you can do it.
Yeah.
And we take it in baby steps, right? So
Hmm.
a lot of times we have about 3 months prep for our show.
Yeah.
So I try to give them a deadline and when they have to be, as it's called, off book. So
Okay.
they I'd say not all the time, but about 80% of the time they adhere to that deadline. But even if so, I'll say, hey, you're supposed to be off book today. Let's make sure you're off next week. But they, I think, are more intimidated. They intimidate themselves
Yeah.
because I think they can do it because they have done it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then even if and when it's a live show, a lot of times something will happen and they'll forget, but they have to go on. They
Uh-huh.
can't say, oh, let's do it again. No, it's live, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times they are able to then transition into that because it's like, hey baby, you got to do this, and they do. And then they'll come up to me afterwards. You can see it in their faces. They're so excited. They were so exhilarated about it. And then they say, thank you, Laura, keep challenging us, keep challenging us. And I say, don't worry, I will. So it's just a matter. And the other thing is playing to their strengths. Like there's some people maybe that are better in the acting area,
Yes. Yeah.
some
Yeah.
that are better in the singing area. I have
Singing.
a couple of
Yeah.
very talented folks, a
Yeah.
couple people that are better as musicians. So how do we put that all together and keep with the theme? So that's been a learning process for me too, because I have to see what would best suit not only the show that we want to put together, but the talents of the performers.
Of course. Of course. How do you see age in this sense? How do you perceive, because we're talking about now seniors, we're not talking about teenagers or young adults, but we're talking about seniors that have retired, they got curious about the performing arts, they trickle in. And how has that been, or how do you address the age issue? Because I'm sure a lot of times, especially in our society, age seems to play such a big role in everybody's mind. Oh, you're too old for that. We put our own limitations to ourselves. So how has that been for you working with them? Because I know that in your group you have people all from all age groups, seniors from different age.
Yeah. I think my youngest student's 69, so it's
Wow,
basically going from there. Yeah. For me, it's safety first.
of
Sometimes I
course.
want them to do something and it's like, okay, you're not comfortable with that, or you can't,
You
safety
can
first. So
move.
that's,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I have to go with that. And then the other things that I look at is how do they learn, and how do they prepare best in their best way. So sometimes, like I'll give them some anecdotes to
Hmm.
say, like one is Arnold, Schwarzenegger said, how do I get
Yes.
these muscles? Well, not only with steroids, but repetition, 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 right? So it's like repetition, repetition. You can't just read something once or twice and expect to get it.
Yeah.
So give them tools to be able to do that. There's some that are better than others at that, or some that are more driven to be able
Yeah.
to do that. So, it's some people are a little lazy, let's face it. They're like, I'm just here to have fun, but we're putting on a show. So you kind of have to have that professional
You have
instinct
to
and
step
try
it
to
up.
have that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Especially
Yeah.
because I've seen the shows and you have some students that are pretty up there as performers. I mean, we're in the heart of Hollywood and we have, amazing, some of them are quite good,
Hmm.
which you would never expect, which is another thing that I love to see is when people come to see these shows and they never expect what you are putting on, which is
Hmm.
fantastic because
Oh,
people
thanks.
make assumptions, about what a senior center is doing, what they're presenting. And then here we have the audience come and enjoy and be part of something that they just did not expect.
Hmm. Yeah, I want to entertain, of course, but I also want them to be challenged, and I want them
Hmm.
to, you know, maybe think about it. Have some thoughtful takes away some thoughtfulness after they leave the show. I don't want them to just sit there and then forget about it afterwards.
Yes.
Um, and some do. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be all drawn in and everything, but for the most part, I think people do. And we keep coming back. And I remember, my boss has said that when he first the shows before, there was
Yeah.
more people on stage than in the audience. So we've changed that. So I'm very happy
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say that. Yeah. So.
No, it's fantastic. And I know that there's among seniors, sometimes the presence of a little bit of Alzheimer's and the mind is decaying a little bit as we get
Hmm.
older or
Right.
diseases begin to arrive. Have you had that experience in working with the seniors, and how has challenged your approach if you're
Mm.
dealing with somebody that has a little bit of the beginnings of that?
Yeah. Well, I think again, looking at what they're strongest in, or maybe not challenging. Well, not challenging them. Maybe not giving them as much to memorize that
Ah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's, some of them learn differently. Like one of my students, he's not as good as memorizing off the page, but he'll listen to it like 9,000 times. So his learning tool is hearing. So
Is
he'll
hearing.
listen to it again and again and
Yeah.
again, and that would helps him memorize. And there's others I say just memorize a page, just memorize one page or one paragraph over that over and over and over. And I give him sort of examples like when I was acting, when I was doing plays and stuff, I would
Mhm.
record it. I'd listen to it when I'm taking a bath.
Of
I'd listen to
course.
it in the car. I'd listen to it, and I would tape the whole entire play. So I knew everybody's lines, including my own. I said, I'm not expecting you to do that, but that's what helped me. So you
Mhm.
knew what to expect, and if your partner, your scene partner goes up, you can cover for them
Of
because you know
course.
what they're supposed to say. So it's just a matter of really integrating yourself into the piece. And in my acting class now, I'm teaching them like backgrounds of all different kind of acting methods. From
Oh,
Stanislavski
wonderful.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Strasberg, and then we're going to be working with Meisner and Stella Adler. So just giving them the background and the history of those, And I'm not
Yeah,
saying I'm advocating any one of these, but all of these
yes,
are possible for
of
you and what
course.
could work
And
best for you.
you're giving them the tools so they can choose what's best for each person according to their personality and their
Hmm.
strengths, which is fantastic. Wow, Laura, what an amazing thing. Did you expect or did you think that doing this work was going to be like this? Because it's very different from, like teaching at a conservatory of theater or at an
Hmm.
academy.
Hmm.
So how has that been for you?
Well, there's a lot of similarities because, being the director of the show and then I mean, actually
Yeah,
curating what's going to be in the show, you need to have that vision of how it's going to be put together and you have to be able to explain it and express it to their understanding. But there's also that, like you said, the challenge of if somebody doesn't have the memory or maybe they're having a bad day. There's been a few outbursts here and there and a little bit of snipping back and forth. So okay, guys, it's okay. Let's just calm down now. It's not getting us anywhere. Let's focus on the work. But if
yeah.
somebody's having a hard time, I don't want to, I'm not one of those people that wants to embarrass somebody because I don't think that's helpful. I mean, I've had directors when I've acted, and I've had other people that, even people that I've acted with, that are being real, whats. And I
I know.
just, it doesn't help. What is that? That's for your ego. So my theory is just encourage, but also be firm. That's sort of
Yes.
how I am. Yeah.
That's exactly what I've had to do too, because I've noticed, like when you teach at an academy, like for ballet, for example, and dance, the approach is completely different. You have to be so strict in my case about their attire, their uniform, their expectations, like the hair and all of this. But when you're in a community setting, things are a little bit different. Sometimes you have, in my case, I've had parents that are driving straight from work and their job is not exactly like a comfortable sit down job, but let's say is the person that sells fruit in the corner. And
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm.
struggling, just, she's even struggling to pay for the classes as affordable as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like finding a way to get to the rec center and she forgot the uniform. So
Mm-hmm.
for me also, like I've had to tone it down a little bit without changing the quality of the instruction. So
Mm-hmm.
they still get, like the discipline and the quality of the instruction. But then there's this human side to I feel to what we're doing through the department because it's a little bit not relaxed. I don't know how to explain it. It's more community based.
Mm-hmm.
And but then sometimes community based or community oriented sometimes can be diluted, and so you encounter certain places where the quality is not as good because it's community based and they
Mm-hmm.
have diluted the techniques and the training. But I think
Mm-hmm.
in your case it's so amazing because if anybody wants to take acting lessons, they're getting it from a real professional in a real discipline environment, but with the community aspect and the softness that recreation and parks offers.
Right. I think in some ways it's like take it seriously, but don't kill yourself over it. I mean, because it's you're supposed to have fun with it. You're
Yes,
learning, but you also have to take it seriously too, because you're wasting my time then,
yeah,
or you're wasting the other students' time if you're not gonna,
exactly.
participate or
Yeah,
take it seriously. So that's something that takes time for some folks. We're like, well, I'm not a professional actor. Well, doesn't matter. Acting, I mean, one of the best quotes is acting is life, man. I
exactly.
mean, you go into this situation, you're a different person than you're in that situation, let's face it. So what do? You use those tools and you're yourself, but you're that compartment of yourself or that
Of
compartment. You can't
course,
be exactly the same in every situation. So that's kind of one of the things that
exactly.
I advocate. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And I think for me to have witnessed it in person, what's amazing is to see the change and the pride they feel after having successfully performed. It's like you spend all these weeks working as a team, training, receiving all the guidelines that you give them. And then at the end, they put on these amazing shows and then they feel this sense of achievement, right, that they were
Mm-hmm.
able to do it, that they achieved it. Because I've seen, like my class happens one day a week after your class. So sometimes I come and I see them and they tell me what's going on. And sometimes it's so cute because they want to give up, They're like, oh my God, she's been so tough. But that's what makes you and prepares you for the stage.
Yeah. And it's not like I expect them. I don't throw the expectations where I don't think they can do it, because now that I've been with them for a number of months now, a
You
little
know
over a
them.
year, I know them better. And as I'm always looking for new people to join, of course, sometimes they're intimidated. They think they can't do it, but then they do come through, they do come through because I always say, hey man, it's not me up there. It's you. I mean, yes,
Exactly.
I'm the director and I put the show together, but you're up there. So you are
Exactly.
representing yourself. So just take that take that a little seriously, but you're doing great. But I always encourage every time, every aspect of it, if they're doing well, or even if
Mhm.
there's something that they need to change, always go with the positive first, always.
Oh, that's amazing. And that is a wonderful place. We're going to take a small break to give a shout out to our sponsors and to the people that make this possible. And we will be back with Laura with more wisdom and more information for you guys.
Okay.
Jovi, take it away. Thank you so much.
It's not just water, it's responsibility, it's leadership. It's not just drowning prevention or water safety, it's life. And every day, aquatics professionals make decisions that save lives. Because aquatics is more than swim lessons. It's community, it's creativity, it's impact. For over 30 years, aquatics hasn't just been my profession, it's been my life. I've seen the challenges, the pressure, the grind, but I've also seen the power of great leadership and what happens when communities come together. This is where education meets entertainment, where real conversations happen, where aquatics professionals come together to learn, lead, and grow. Because aquatics should bring people together. This is Aquatics Life, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
Oops. Makeup check.
Yes. So before we jump back into the show, I want to take a quick moment to thank the incredible partners who make the Daily Parks and Rec Show possible. First, a big shout out to Outdoor Link. Outdoor Link helps connect outdoor brands with parks and recreation spaces through smart location-based advertising, making it easier for communities to discover and enjoy the outdoors while supporting the spaces we all love. I also want to recognize the National Academy of Athletics. They specialize in youth sports programs, offering camps, leagues, and training experiences that help kids build skills, confidence, and character, all while partnering with local parks around the area. All right, Laura. So we're back. Thank you so much for being part of this once again. We're so excited to have you join us and share your expertise in all that you're bringing to Parks and Recreation. So now that we're back on the show, I just wanted to ask you, what are some things that you wish Parks and Recreation was doing for the performing arts and for the arts overall and in general?
Well, there's some things that when I first was hired, I had like a wish list. I'd love the auditorium to be a little bit more of a professional space, with
Okay.
lighting, with sound, things that could enhance it.
Okay.
The other thing that I was hoping for is a little bit more, I don't know, like how to get the word out. There's a lot of times where people like me didn't even know this existed.
Yeah.
And then knowing that the actual center even exists, or these programs even exist, how could that be better publicized? How could that be, how could the community know more about that? And a lot of times it is word of mouth. And, I mean,
Yeah.
but with your background and your resume, people will come to you, because they'll say, oh, Beatrice is teaching. I want to go to her class. But sometimes they just don't know it exists. And then, those are the two things. I would love to have a little bit more technology available for the performances, and also a little bit more promotion. I don't know how that can be
More
achieved.
promotion. Yeah. I
Hmm.
think that's one of the things that we struggle, like I said, because for so long, or for so many years, parks and recreation have been associated with just the sports or the summer camps, right? But it hasn't
Hmm.
really been associated with the arts. And I think now we are changing that. I think you're one of those people that is changing that. I'm one of those people that is changing that. And it's amazing to me how many times I have students come to me and say, "Oh, I wish I had known about your program a lot sooner." Like, I get the younger sister, but the older sister who now graduated college is like, "Oh my God, Miss B, I wish I had come to you when I was little, because I wanted to be a dancer, but I didn't. We didn't have the means for the training, and I
Hmm.
didn't know this program existed." So I think, yes, it's so important that we have more visibility
Hmm.
within the parks and recreation. So hopefully, all of these shows that we're doing are going to start changing that. That's
I
one of
think
my
it's a great start. I think it's a great tool that you're doing for sure.
Yes, and like, now we're in such a virtual world where everything is, people find out about programs through the internet, through Instagram, through Facebook, through, so I think it's so important that we put ourselves out there and that we promote what we're doing. Sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to be promoting what we're doing, but in a way we should, because how else can people know the work that we're doing?
I know I was playing pickleball last night, and one of the
Yes.
gals is a retired attorney, and she was talking about all the classes she's taking. I go, well, come take my acting class. Come
Oh,
on.
yes,
So yeah, I mean, those,
exactly.
you do have to have a little bit of self promotion. I agree. You do have to say, okay, you have to be an advocate for your own work, and you have to be an advocate for the community in order to bring more community. So.
Yes. And sometimes I think it's very difficult to do that when you're already busy, like in my case and your case. Like, I'm teaching so many classes per week. I am getting my students ready for all their performances. And then on top of that, to be doing the promotional work is a little bit challenging, because then
Hmm.
now it's just like an extra job where you're doing more things, and there's only so many hours in the day to do everything
Hmm.
that we need to do.
Hmm.
Especially if
Hmm.
we're also working with other organizations, and Parks and Rec is not the only place where we teach at. So
Hmm.
it's like always the juggling and the going back and forth.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah. And, there's always the concern, at least, and I'm always with that in the back of my mind, with always cuts to the arts. What do they always cut first? The arts, because we don't need
yes,
the arts. So let's just cut those things. So it's kind of like, that's why we need it more than ever, because people are losing that. They're losing that connection to the arts. And that's something, if they know these kind of things still exist, touch wood, they still will. I think that that's really a testament to not only what we're all doing, but what
yeah,
the city is providing, and some of these other organizations that are supportive of it, be it, financially or promotionally.
yeah,
So.
yeah. I think, I've seen an improvement, I have to say, from when I began teaching for the city, for Parks and Rec many years ago to now. I see now they seem to have like a team that is promoting the classes, and then, but then again, the focus is mainly for the youth, for youth classes.
Hmm.
I think there should also be promotional work going towards the senior centers, because our country is, I forget the statistic, but like, we're gonna have more seniors than ever in 2030. So what are these seniors going to do? And the seniors of today are so different from the seniors of back in the day. Sometimes when I'm teaching my dance classes, I can't believe that some of my students are in their late 60s because they
Mm-hmm.
look so vibrant and so young, and they're doing so much, and some of them even have part-time work. And I'm just like, wow, like they retire and then that was not for them, and now they decided to go back to school and get like a second career.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
what are we doing for them? You know what I mean?
Right. No, exactly. I mean, and I think that there are the days, not they're not totally gone, but after you retire, I don't think a lot of people just want to sit down and watch TV all day. They want to challenge themselves. And a lot of them do have an arts background. I mean, one of my students actually sang at Carnegie Hall. I mean, that's
Exactly.
pretty amazing. I mean,
Yes.
and one of my students was in a rock band since he was 17, So, I mean,
Yes.
these people have the talent. And it's just a place that can be affordable for them
Yes.
and more community and a safe space, right? Because
Mhm.
they're not going to be laughed out of the room or whatever they're afraid of. They're going to be
Yeah.
encouraged, and
Exactly.
to have that available, I think, is really key, especially as you said, as our population ages.
Exactly. Yes. And I love to read about other countries and what they're doing, and I love to see that in other countries the arts are so big. And I feel like we need to start doing that here in the United States, and hopefully through all this you know through all this exposure that we are giving it, eventually people will start understanding the importance of the arts, of them being affordable, that art is for any age, because let's face it, a lot of the artistic programs here in this country are catered to the youth.
Hmm.
And that's why, like, your theater program is so rare, because there's really not that many. And we're in Hollywood, we're like in the mecca of, like, if Hollywood doesn't have a whole bunch of theater programs for seniors, what can you expect in a small town in the middle of the country, right?
Right.
If
I
the main mecca that is not providing that yet. So
Right. Because I think sometimes people think about seniors and they think they're going to just be walking in circles or bumping into each other and just not. I mean, I'm being serious, but
you're being, yeah,
it's
is it true?
ridiculous. But it's,
Yeah.
yeah, there are some that do maybe, but I found that, like you said, with the vibrancy and things like that, that it's just um it's something that is over overlooked and underappreciated, I think,
Yes.
and that there is still life there. I mean, one of my students, well into her 80s, is an amazing pianist. So,
Yes. Yeah.
it's those are the kind of things, and you think, oh my God, and she still works 3 nights a week at a restaurant.
At a wonderful restaurant in
Hmm.
Hollywood that is like a
Hmm.
very popular with tourism.
Right,
Yes.
right. So there you go. I mean, I just gave a couple examples of just in my class that they have that, but there's also folks that maybe aren't as seasoned or haven't had that experience, but that doesn't mean they don't have talent. They have talent in another way. So it's just finding that talent and bringing it out of them, encouraging them to use that
Encouraging them.
talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also holding them accountable, because I'm big on that too. So,
No, that's
I'm treating them
amazing.
like a professional, and they should act as
That's
such.
and
So,
that's what's so important, because a lot of times I've had students come up to me in the dance class for seniors, and they tell me, "Oh my God, your classes are so tough." I was going to a different location where they were giving things that were sort of like for preschoolers, and they were making them feel like children. And and people forget that these are adults with a wisdom and an understanding, and that you need to treat them with the respect that they deserve.
right, exactly. And they can do it. They
And
always
they
say, I
can do
can't, I can't, and they can. They can. They're putting their own limitations on
Yeah,
themselves, right?
I
So,
think maybe, as society has put so many limitations on them, that
hmm.
at a certain point they end up believing what they've been told for so
Hmm.
long, right?
Hmm.
And then if they didn't make it big into the arts, or because we all have dreams and aspirations, and not everybody makes it to the level they aspire to, then
Hmm.
they kind of give up, and then they think it's silly to try to pursue this dream that they had when they were young. Now they're retired and now they have the time to do it, but they think it's silly to go for
Hmm.
it. But it's never too late. And don't we
Agreed.
have an actress that won an Oscar and she started acting like when she was 70? I forget her name. British. She's a British woman who was like a housewife, and then finally, like at 70, she's super famous. You know which
Oh,
one I'm talking about. She's been in all the movies.
yeah, yeah. I can't think of who you mean, but
And she
I
got
know
the
the
Oscar
story.
like 10
Yeah.
years ago or something, and you're like, oh my God. Like
Hmm.
it's never too late.
Right, exactly. And I mean, you're not going to be playing the ingenue. I mean,
Of
you're not going to be
course.
playing Juliet, but even in my class, I don't limit age. So like we'll have them play teenagers, or we'll
I
have them
know.
play sisters, and I know, but it's about the work. And if you can make the work your own, if you can
Of
take whatever
course.
that is, it's going to work. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to have them do somersaults while they're juggling by any means, but you can say the lines, you can relate to that. That's your sister there, that's your cousin there, that's your boss there, or whatever, putting yourself
Exactly.
in the situation as you do with your dancers, because you have to have themes for them with the ballet and with some of the modern dance and things. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with the seniors, I always have to keep an eye on what they can and they cannot do because
hmm
it's a physical practice.
sure,
So then I need to make sure that, like you say, safety is first. I need to make sure they're not gonna trip. Sometimes
right,
one of them wants to spin and turn, but then I see him clumsy and I have to tell him, let's change it a little bit because in the back of my mind I'm seeing like, oh my God, he might trip and fall on somebody,
right,
right? So
right.
I have to adjust it, but like you say, always with the same discipline and not diluting the art form and presenting the work like it should be.
Exactly. Because I mean, like sometimes I have had people like say, "Oh, I'm too tough" or whatever at times, but then they'll come back. So obviously they like something about it because they come back to the to the next one. Some people just, that's their personality. They just kind of like to complain,
Yeah,
and
I
it
think
gets it off their chest.
it's a good balance. You need to have like you do, right? You need to have the kindness, but then you also need to have like the strength to train them and to make sure that they achieve what you know they can achieve. Because
Right.
sometimes they don't see it themselves. They feel like, like fear is such a big factor and they don't believe in themselves, but then you do, and you know how far they can go because you're, in a way, I don't want to say you're the expert, but you are, because you're the one that trained in this and you have the knowledge, so you can see how far they can go and how far you
Exactly.
can push. And that's why they come back to you.
Yeah, right. And like I said, I play to their strengths. I do want to challenge them, but like I said, if somebody's better at acting than they are at singing, I might emphasize them to have more acting in the show, right? And others that are really great singers, I always want to be able to highlight that because I know they're going to bring the house down because they can sing like you know what.
Yes.
So it's those kind of balances. Plus, doing the show for the audience itself, because a lot of the audience is seniors that will come that are either part of the
Yeah.
center or friends of the performers or some people off the street. But most of the time, they want to be entertained, but then they also want to be challenge too. I mean, I've had people come up to me after the show and just are like ridiculously stunned. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that you did that. That was so amazing.
Yeah.
So, so that's really great praise. But, I give it to the cast that they trusted me in order to
Mhm.
be able to push themselves and then perform.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the most wonderful things that you can see as a performer and as a director for you is to see the audience's response when they come to see the shows. And,
Hmm.
and these are shows that are making them think, that are making them feel, I have been part of the audience, my students perform and then I sit and watch and and there are moments when you feel really moved because these people really transport you to the place that they are meaning to take you to, right? And so
Hmm.
it's an incredible, incredible experience to be part of this. And I think it's so wonderful that we have places through recreation and parks that are exposing the audience to the arts. And like in this case, sometimes many people didn't have the chance to go see shows. They were working, they were busy, like at the senior center, and now at this stage in their lives they're frequenting the senior center, they go to take the classes, and then maybe if they hadn't seen a show before, now is their chance to see a
Hmm.
show. or like to hear the singer that perform at Carnegie Hall, and maybe they never heard opera singing before, right? And now they
Mm-hmm.
get to hear it live from an incredible performer. And so
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that I love about recreation and parks and the whole thing of community and bringing this, elevating society towards something better and richer and a richer experience. And that you don't have to spend tons of money to have
Right.
these experiences,
Right.
right? You can come, like, because your shows are free or donation
Mm-hmm.
based, right?
Mm-hmm. Donation based. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Donation based. Oh, yeah, there you go. So where else would you go and listen to a former rock musician with a popular band, a singer from Carnegie Hall, right?
Exactly.
And yeah,
Exactly.
and you're coming here, and like, if you can donate a little bit, great. And if you don't
If
have the
not, yeah,
means,
that's fine. You're
you're
not
still
turned away.
accepted.
Nobody's turned away. Right.
So
Yeah, and I think it's important too, like you were talking about earlier, for the students and the performers to feel good about what they're doing. Like one of my students hadn't been in the performing arts for decades, and he came back about maybe a year and a half ago, right? And
uh-huh.
he is just like, I think, I'm so thankful for it because it's something that he loved, and then he did his life, whatever else he was doing in his work, and then now he's back to doing something that he loved, and he loves it again. So
Amazing.
those are the great stories that you hear, and those are the great stories that you can be a part of with it. So it's very rewarding for me as well. Yeah.
Oh, Laura, that's amazing. I forget, I read somewhere that we're all born as artists, whether it's towards painting or music or acting or dancing, but we're all natural artists. And as we start growing up, society and our surroundings start conditioning us. But when we first come into this world as children, all children gravitate towards the arts,
Hmm.
some form of art. But
Hmm.
somehow at some point in our lives, somebody said, nope, that's not for you, or you don't have the talent, or that sounds terrible. And something got closed in, and
Hmm.
we don't allow ourselves to explore that side anymore. And I think it's amazing that through life, a lot of times, like you're saying, these seniors remember something they love from their childhood, or something that, oh yeah, like I remember when I was painting or when I was playing something, right? And all of the sudden,
Right.
now in this age, they want to experience it again and try
Hmm.
to see if there's something there, but because they never got to do it.
Yeah. Now that they're retired, or if they even have like a part-time gig or something like that, they have the time to devote to it now. They have the time to explore, to see whether or not that's something they still want to experience.
Yes.
And 90% of the time, it's yes. Right. I had one student. It was kind of interesting. He came in one of the shows. He was a new member of the organization of the center, and he
Uh-huh.
came to he came to one of my rehearsals, and I said, well, we've already got it booked, but I can put you in the chorus.
Yeah.
Fine. So then he came the next class, and then I always do warm-ups with him, breathing
Yeah.
and moving, before we get started. And in the middle of the warm-up, he just got up, took his bag, and left. And it's like,
Oh,
okay, I guess, didn't like it, and never saw him again. So I don't know, and I haven't seen him at the center again either. But it's kind of interesting because there's some people that might have the energy or might have the desire, and then
yeah.
whatever it is, they don't anymore. It's like ta-ta, bye-bye. So that was
Yeah.
that
Well,
was interesting.
yeah, and like we said at the beginning, sometimes we put our own limitations and maybe the expectations. Sometimes people expect something, and like you said, there's a lot of the thinking, the conditioned thinking, where, oh, I'm retired. Like, what do you mean I have to memorize a monologue, or what do you mean I have to work for it?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's through the work that you achieve something more, and you see what you're capable of as you develop
I
your
mean,
craft.
how do you not feel good about yourself when you do something, that you accomplish something that you never thought you could? And not only do you accomplish it, you do a good job, and then you have people clapping for you. That's pretty. That gives you a good high, I must say. And they can feel it. I can see that. That you get all you do get energized and you do feel better about yourself, I think. And it's always just to embrace that in yourself, embrace the artist in yourself.
Exactly. And I think the arts are so healing and so important. And, once again, I'm going to repeat it over and over again because I think that the arts have kind of been left behind a little bit here in this country. And we need to reconnect to the arts. We need to bring them back into the schools, into the parks and rec, and we need to start going towards that new era where the arts are a crucial part. And it doesn't mean that you're going to become a professional singer, but it's just that they teach you so much about working as a group, like in your classes. It's like it's so beautiful because they start from scratch and you guys all build this show together, and at the end of the 6 or 8 weeks, it's something that you all contributed to put out there and to show it to the audience. But you guys built it. Like, we were not there to see what happened behind closed doors. It was like you with them, creating the magic, doing the work, putting it out there so that then we get to enjoy it when we see it.
Yes,
Right?
and that's definitely one of our goals, and then of course for them to feel good about what they did, right? That they did that. I may have helped construct it. I may have
Yeah,
helped them guide it. But like I've said before, I'm not up there on the stage. You're up there up on the
it's
stage. You're up,
them.
and you're doing it, and they do it. And I'm just so grateful for their trust in me, and also that they take the risk. And it's always about a risk, right? Because if you don't take a
Yes,
risk, you're just going to be, you can watch a movie. I mean, that's not a risk. So,
exactly. Like a
yeah,
friend of mine told me years ago, because like we all have those moments in life where you feel a little bit hesitant or you're
sure.
scared. And I had a friend of mine and she was telling me, well, but what do you have to lose? And I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, then what's the worst that could happen? Nothing happens. She's like, are you going to lose a limb? Are you going to lose an arm? Or like, what happens? Like, she goes like, why are you so afraid of making that decision? And that stuck with me forever, and I think is one of the reasons why my life has been like so magical. And I always tell people, just try it. Nothing's gonna happen, especially programs or activities that are free where we have an amazing director and teacher. Just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing
Mm-hmm.
happens. It's not for you, so you walk away. But then what if it's amazing? What if you decide, oh my god, this is so great? What if we have the next best nominated actress at the senior center and she doesn't know it yet? And it happens in
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years, right? Because it could just be
Right.
like somebody takes your class, they go to an audition a year from today, and they get hired in a movie about a grandma or about something.
Sure.
And then, they win an award for it, right? These are the
Mm-hmm.
possibilities if you stay open and if you say yes to it.
That's the key. Say yes. Yeah. Say yes.
I think maybe I say yes to too many things, but
Oh
and
man,
I could
totally.
jump in there. But you know what? At the end of the day, you look back and it's true. Nothing happens. You have nothing to lose unless, of course, somebody's asking you for like $1 million. But if you have these amazing activities, like through parks and recreation too, it's like just try it, and go
Right.
for it. Try it, whether it's the theater, whether it's dance or music, swimming, volleyball, basketball. There's so much out there, and people just need to say yes to the possibilities.
Right. And I've always, one of my mantras is, the answer is always no unless you try it. Right. So, like if I'm sending out some of my work to somebody, well, if I don't send it out, the answer is no.
Is no.
But if I send it out, then it's 50-50 chance of a yes, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
those are things. And for them, can they do it? The answer is no if you don't do it.
If you
But if you try it,
exactly
it's at least a 50-50 chance that you're going to do it.
chance.
So why
Yeah.
not take the odds?
And as you go along, you start learning and you're building more skills. And wow, Laura, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for
Oh, thank
joining us
you,
today. And,
Beatrice. Yeah,
and
this
how
was
do we
awesome.
find out more about your work? Tell us how can we contact you, your social media, like Instagram.
My Instagram handle is at LuluPix Inc. LULUPIX INC at Lulupix Inc. I'm going to be launching my website in the next few days, which will be lulupix.com. So Lulupix is the key, Lulupix. And I also have a YouTube channel and Facebook, and one of my web series is on TikTok, Agnes and Estelle. You can look that up.
Nice.
So yeah, so
Well, I'm
there's
sure
a few
that
places.
they'll link it all here once it goes up on the YouTube channel. We can find all the
Super.
links. Yeah.
Super. That'll be great. Yeah, but Lulupix PIX is the key to looking that up, and you can find a lot of the other links that way.
Oh, Laura, thank you. Thank you so much for this amazing interview. I had an amazing time getting to know more in depth your work. I have been a witness of what you do with the seniors at the Senior Center. And thank you so much for bringing theater to Parks and Rec. And thank you so much for bringing like a not diluted, but a really strong performing arts training to the seniors in our community, because it's amazing what you guys do and what you guys put on, throughout the year. So thank you so much.
Thank you back at you, Beatrice, for all your great work. Thank you. What a lot of fun talking to you. A lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. And now I have to give a shout out again. So before we grab, I want to take a moment to recognize the heart of what makes this show possible, our strategic partnership network. These are the vendor partners and community organizations who stand shoulder to shoulder with parks and recreation departments every single day, helping us deliver better programs, safer spaces, and more memorable experiences for the families that we serve. From the brands that supply our fields and facilities, to the innovators building new technology for the outdoors, to the youth sports organization putting kids first, our strategic partnership network is the engine behind so much of the great work happening in Parks and Rec. We are grateful for every one of them. If your organization shares our mission and you'd like to join the DPRS Media Network Strategic Partnership Network, reach out to us through the link in the description. And to every partner already in the family, thank you. We could not do this without you. Thank you so much, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom-branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.